So I'm sure you, like me, watch the news and see that perhaps we are finding ourselves more and more frequent in our own echo chambers. Republicans seem to be finding themselves listening to more Republicans. Democrats seem to find themselves listening to more Democrats. This is not just supported by looking at our TikTok, Facebook, Instagram feeds, but also where people are moving. Interestingly enough, sometimes you will find people moving in areas that are more red or more blue because they want to be around other people who feel like they feel or think like they think. What's fascinating when we learn and kind of contemplate what does this mean for us is that if you and I were to constantly be around other people who think and feel like us and kind of label the other group as the other, it can be, if you perceive it as such, oppressive, not just for yourself, but for the other, whom you have decided is, decidedly so, the other. And what does this have to do with Passover? You may wonder. Interestingly, Italian commentator Sforno talked about the Passover story as not just a liberation for the Israelites. Of course, the Israelites themselves were enslaved, they were oppressed, and they were challenged to even understand how they could get from the place where they were at into a place of freedom and liberation. What Sforno points out interesting is that not only were the Israelites oppressed, but Pharaoh and the Egyptians themselves were oppressed by the system that they had created. He argued that the 10 plagues were sent not just for the Egyptians to punish them, but really, in a sense, they were sent to liberate the Egyptians. They were sent as a wake-up call so that the Egyptians would understand that by continuing on the path of enslaving one group, they were limiting themselves as an overarching society. If we were to apply the same logic that Sforno argues articulately from several hundred years ago to our own society, we can kind of understand and see that by putting one group of people in the group other and labeling them as distinct from our own selves, whatever our personal political ideology might be, we are in fact perpetuating a system of oppressing the other person. We are no longer seeing them as human, and we are okay with whatever happens to somebody who is, well, less than human. The idea that if some of us are oppressed, then none of us are free, as taught by Emma Lazarus and enshrined on the Statue of Liberty, is not dissimilar either. If we are choosing to oppress one group by labeling them as other, by treating them differently, by not respecting the humanity that is them, then we are perpetuating that same system ourselves. And so the challenge, I think, this year, especially, well, all years anyway, is to see that everybody around us, no matter their political ideology, if they define themselves as blue, red, purple, or pink, or whatnot, that they are all human, would be quite the stretch, as we see laws coming up that some of us may find distasteful around the country and others of us are fully excited about. But recognizing that when we have things like that occurring, we're not hearing one another. We're perpetuating power structures which oppress some people, and in the end, go forward and oppress all peoples. And so this Passover, I would love to invite all of you to start to think about ways in which we can go ahead and start liberating ourselves from simply listening to people who sound like us, having ideologies that are similar to ours, but go ahead and do something radical. Invite somebody to your house who may not exactly agree with you. After all, one of the other lessons that Passover offers is breaking bread with a stranger. And when you break bread with a stranger, suddenly, as you're sharing food or matzo balls or whatnot, they're not quite so strange. So hopefully, you'll be inspired, just a smidge, to start seeing the other as a human, finding yourself enjoying some matzah with them, and reaching forward with love and compassion in your hearts. Shabbat Shalom, and happy Passover.